Welcome to Death Holler, the place of haunted hearts and haunted homes. We welcome you to Death Manor, the home that boasts the most ghosts. Come on in. We've been expecting you. Take a look around. You might see someone that you recognize. Do you hear those voices? That's just the Reverend Death and La Llareyna. They're so happy to see you. Sit back and relax. Make yourself at home. Your new home. And remember, when you're in Death Holler, listener discretion is always advised. We hope you enjoy the show.
It's been a little bit, Llareyna. What's been going on?
I have been trying to avoid dreaming about fucking ghosts from watching all these damn ghost movies. Because I have had, you get to hear my weird ass dreams where I don't know if something's actually talking to me and needs help, or am I imagining it in my head? Is this crazy talk? It probably is crazy talk. So, but I've been doing pretty good. I haven't been having any weird freaking dreams. So, but other than that, just kind of sticking to the script and watching just the movies that we're supposed to be watching.
Well, there's not been a whole lot out either. I think that's supposed to change toward the end of this month. There's actually supposed to be some decent horror movies coming to theaters around the end of August, I think. So
we are entering spooky season. Like it's just around the corner.
Some people have said it's already started. So
yeah, I mean, we pretty much can start it when we want to. I know last August I was trying to, but it was so fucking hot out here in California. So it's nice and cool now. We got that fall weather right now.
Yeah, it must be nice. We still haven't reached that time period yet, so yeah. It's kind of a pain.
What's been going on with you though?
Well, you maybe stopped dreaming about them, or at least being able to control it somewhat. I think I might have actually seen one.
Oh, shut up.
So I was on my way back from picking something up, and I drove down this one street that I normally don't go down, but it was on the way. So I was driving past, there's this like 2-story old apartment style building, like one of those old like brownstone type, block buildings or whatever. And it's in total disrepair. Looks like it's on the verge of, like the city, needing to condemn it and, basically put it out of its misery. And as I'm driving past it, normally I wouldn't even look over there because normally there's nobody on that street, so I wouldn't even think about it. But like I was behind somebody and they had to stop because there was traffic coming the other way. And so I was sitting there, I just looked over at it, and I saw now they have like big old drop cloth, like curtains in the windows or whatever. And behind those curtains, but facing the street, I saw, like a couple of cats. I'm like, okay, there's, cats that's got their way in that building or whatever. But as I was looking, there's a little kid's face that's looking out at the street from one of those windows. And remind you, this is not a place that's being rented. And to my knowledge, it's not being worked on to be renovated either. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm like, I didn't think anything about it. I was like, it was one of those, cherubic faced, kids that, I mean, it didn't look like, I hate to be this way, but it didn't look like a homeless person's kid.
Okay.
Out there, it didn't look, starved. It was a well-fed child, which is good, but I'm sitting there and the kid's like just watching the traffic. And then as I'm looking at the kid, it looks back at me.
Oh, hell no.
And I said that. and so I look back at the road. I'm like, okay, it's a kid looking at me. And I look back at the road because, to see if the person from me's went yet, and they still have it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, wait a minute, this building's almost, condemnable. It's in such bad repair. Who in the hell in the right mind would have a kid in that place, even if they were working on it? And so I look back there, and of course the kid's not in the window anymore.
Oh, it's coming for you. It's like, you can see me. So, I can talk to you now.
And the only thing I could see at the kids, so I mean, here's the thing that and I know there's a million ways to poke holes in this, and I've thrown some of them out there. Homeless kid, whatever, somebody could have been renovating. I'm not aware of a renovation, but could be going on. But Like, I could only see the kid's face, so I couldn't see their clothing. So it's not one of those things where it's like you see somebody Victorian clothing, it's like, oh shit, that's a ghost. Like it, so, take that as you may. I only saw their face, but it was clearly a boy, and it had like just, kind of like this light curly, like brown hair on the top of its head. And then like, these pale blue eyes, like,
Holy
very
shit.
pale. Like I remember. So I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, and it just got me thinking, even if this kid is totally normal and it's just, whatever, one of those other explainable things, it just got me thinking. I was like, if you saw a ghost in today's, day and age with like people like hooked to their cell phones like zombies, which I normally would have been doing, and I never normally even look at those places if I'm just sitting there, which I know you're not supposed to be driving, whatever, people do it. But like, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, you probably would never know if there was anything around you anyways, because nobody even looks around them anymore. I mean, that's just how things are.
Yeah, I mean, fuck,
And,
even if you are into, even when you're ghost hunting now, you can even use your cell phone. They have fucking EMF readers on cell phones now,
Right.
Everything's through the fucking phone. So even then, you'd be glued to that, like, oh, wait, I think I got something, and the ghost is right next to you, like, I'm right here, motherfucker.
And I mean, like, it's just one of those things where, I don't know, it's like people don't, I mean, unless you're doing that specifically, like people don't people watch anymore like they used to. There's too many things to distract you. It's like, that used to be like, you'd sit on your front porch because you had nothing, jack all to do, and it's just like, oh, and you just watch other people. So like, even if you saw a ghost, how would you even know? Like the way, unless they just float. I mean, we'll get to some stories later that Peter Jackson and some others told, but unless you saw it specifically, like inside your own house, when you know that nobody is supposed to be there, how would you know, like just some kid looking out a window in this old apartment building's a real person or not?
Yeah, there isn't. I mean, and then even, I don't know, because I don't know. It's not like it used to be where, people, not even a ton of people are into ghost hunting. We're into watching it on our phones, or on TV, but no one's really into that. And then everyone's so into debunking everything. So
yeah, because I mean, we're so scientific now that we have, we can't believe in anything like that. We have to constantly, make up, oh, it's the wind or it was the pipes or whatever, like we discussed in the last episode for the changeling,
Oh my God. Well, that's actually pretty fucking awesome. I mean, but now, okay, so you did it scare you? Like, I mean, because you just saw a kid and you're trying to put two and two together. But like, now that you've had time to fester on it.
I mean, that's the thing. It didn't scare me at all. It's like, I was like, if that was a ghost, that was kind of cool to, if, to see. And then if not, then the adult of me, adult in me's just like, I feel really bad. Why was that kid by itself in this old decrepit building? Like, that's not, I mean, even if the parents were like, on heroin or whatever in the corner, that's a bad situation for a kid to be in.
God, that is terrible. And you did say, you're like, oh, well, it didn't look like a homeless child. I don't know.
I mean, the kid looked very healthy. I would give the parents that, if whatever. So
if this is a normal kid.
But it was a pale white kid. So that's the other thing. How can you tell? I mean, if a ghost,
Reverend Nona is a pale white kid.
I'm just saying a pale white kid, is like, there's no real way. It's like, oh, that's clear. I mean, you can't tell. I mean, there's no, I mean,
I can't believe you could see the color of his eyes. How far away was this?
I would say, I mean, it was pretty close. I mean, it was like one lane and then like a little bit of grass, in the front yard, like away from me. I mean, it was fairly close to the road.
Okay, but like how many floors up was this child, or was it on the first floor?
It was on the bottom floor.
Okay,
of the
okay.
house.
Okay, wow. Dang, dude. I don't even know. I got nothing.
I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not going to claim it was. It was just, but I was like, that's kind of cool.
That's because you don't want to claim any negative energy. You're like, said, I do. I can totally see you not wanting to claim any negative energy. You're like, nope.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't invite it home. I mean, I'm smarter than that. We talked about this last episode that you do not do that. It's like, come on in, you don't do that
You
shit.
don't,
So,
okay, but sometimes it is unintentional. Like, for instance, the people that truly believe in this, you don't, it's okay. When they find someone that can see them or hear them or feel them, that's energy like, oh my God, this person could potentially help me. At least that's what the belief is. So
well,
if
that's
something's like,
true.
oh my God, you could see me, this is awesome. That's my next victim. Not necessarily victim, but that's the person I'm going to seek to help me. And then it's like they attach themselves to you. Sometimes not with ill intent, but sometimes it's not the best either. So I don't know. That's why, like, in my dreams, when I do dream of these and I don't know what I'm dealing with, I'm like, nope, nope. No, you can help me find $1 million. Nope, I don't believe you. Like, I don't trust I trust no ghost. Okay.
Speaking, I mean, this is definitely a tangent, but weird stuff, Mandela effect stuff. They're claiming now that Ed McMahon was never over the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes.
Oh my God, I've heard about that, and people are going fucking nuts about that, and I'm like, is it because is it because he's not showing up as of recent? Is he even still alive?
He did it. I mean, he was over that in like the I want to say that it was in the late 80s into the 90s, because I remember there was a movie that made fun of like him being over the sweepstakes, but I can't remember which one it was now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him being a part of that. Do you?
So, but they're saying that he never was.
That's
whatever. I mean,
yeah, it's these crazy, I swear, it's these crazy kids that just have nothing better to do. They weren't even there, so they can't, it's not like they can verify, oh yeah, I saw that, I guess some of them were old enough to be like, I remember him there.
Yeah, I think it was like the late millennials that are maybe coming up with this stuff, because they only half remember stuff that went on in the 90s, so they kind of make a few things up here and there.
I don't even know.
Speaking of creepy kids, and just to wrap up our discussion on that before we move on to today's subject, we didn't discuss Sinister. What are your thoughts on those movies? Just like short and sweet, like what'd you think about those?
Right up my alley. Really kind of chilled me to the bone. That's it. I mean, my husband, when I watched the first one, he goes, you need to watch this because you're Mexican, you're Catholic, and this is right up your alley. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say, because we're going to review them. Are we?
Well, I mean, I would have thought we'd reviewed them for this season, because it's kind of a ghost story, I think, with Bagul. Although he could be a demon, so we could maybe bring him up later. I don't know, because there's ghost kids, but Bagul is kind of like a demonic creature. So yeah, I guess we could bring it up later.
God.
All I was going to say about it is I think part 2 is actually better than the first one.
I did like part 2.
I don't know how you feel about that statement. But I feel like it was better.
Okay, yes, I agree with you. But I will give part 1 its due of what it brought to us. I thought it was a great intro film, but you're right, the second film was better.
I agree with you in the sense that, like, I really think that they did a good job taking, like, Ethan Hawke, and then, like, there was just, I mean, he's renting out this, like, just ranch style anywhere USA home, and it could basically, and I mean, that brought the kind of like Poltergeist did, although that did that for, like, wealthy suburbanites. Like, Sinister brought it even more, like, like lower middle class, like blue collar, like as far as like the house that, like Bagul is like infesting. So it's like, I mean, I'll give him credit for that, but I think the second one had a creepier setup where it was like the kids were you saw it from the kids' perspective versus Ethan Hawke's, and like, just being like, like the kids are, it's creepier for them to be seeing this shit than it is for him to be investigating Bagul or whatever it was in the first one.
Reverend, do you want to laugh at me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. What am I going to laugh at?
I'm not. I have not seen the Sinister movies. I thought you were talking about something different. No.
Oh my God. Okay.
I was thinking you were talking about what movie am I thinking you're talking about where the kid goes into like a coma? He
goes into a coma.
He goes into a coma and he sees it's like a demon that's trying to lure him into the other side, and it's got.
Are you talking about Insidious?
Insidious.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll give you credit for that, though. I feel like they came out around the same time, and and Sinister was almost a knock-on, of Insidious.
Okay, so I was talking for reference. Any listeners, my apologies. I am not a professional, and I was talking about Insidious.
There were ghosts in Insidious, though, but I figure since that was primarily a demon, that would be better for a demonic season. So if we go back and revisit that again.
Demon semen season.
Yeah, I think Bagul would kind of fit in that. He is kind of, as a figure, he's kind of demonic. It's the ghost kids that are kind of the ghostly aspect of that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have not seen, so I cannot report on Sinister.
Well, I think there's people at the door now, so we'll just let them in.
Let's let them in.
The Reverend Dr. Death, and joining me as always, somewhere from a parallel dimension where a few of the inhabitants are sex fiends, it's La Llareyna. How goes it in your neck of the woods, Llareyna?
Consent, everybody. Consent is key, okay? There are willing participants out there. If you are a spirit and you want to get your freak on with someone otherworldly, consent, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
That is the name of the game. Ghost sex. It's a topic often avoided in polite society, but since we ain't polite and it's a thing, we're going to discuss it. Technically, Donnie G has been talking about it already, but I digress. The two films we're reviewing today bring up the subject in completely different ways. One is a horror comedy about deranged lovers who refuse to let even death separate them, and the other is a true, if in every sense of the word, horror about a woman targeted by an evil from beyond our reality. So sit back, try to remain as calm as possible, and join us as we review The Frighteners and The Entity. And just a quick podcast plug. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would appreciate if you could take the time to like, comment, subscribe. We've had, several people. Is it in Denmark still? That's what we're rated pretty highly.
Yeah, we're staying up in the the top 180s, top 170s now. Top 200s, okay?
we appreciate it, and if we could get those numbers up in some other countries, that'd be great too. Just help us out, kind of let other people know that might be interested. We would appreciate it. And thank you for enjoying the show.
Yeah. And don't be shy. Join us on social media, Instagram, Facebook. We're not quite on the Twitters or anything, but hey, get on there, make some comments, drop some memes. We're all for it. Okay.
We would definitely appreciate it. And more interaction from the audience is even better. But before we have our discussion about the ghost in this episode, I have a very interesting attack of the bees.
What is that? What is that? What is it? Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! Open my eyes!
So I was looking for options that were not in Donnie G's realm of expertise to cover as a potential attack of the bees, and I did find one. The Spirit is Willing is a movie from 1967 directed by, surprisingly, William Castle, who we've already discussed twice now from 13 Ghosts and The House on Haunted Hill. This one was written by Ben Starr, who did the screenplay, and Nathaniel Benchley, who wrote the novel that it was based upon, called The Visitors. The principal players in this one were Sid Caesar, playing Ben Powell, who's kind of down on his luck and down in his back father. He's also an editor who's kind of forced into taking a vacation, and quite a bit of a skeptic, at least until the last third of the film. And Sid Caesar probably is most common to people now for being Coach Calhoun in Grease 1 and Grease 2. I don't know if you remember that character, but that's what he's probably most commonly known for.
Okay.
He was also in It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. There's 4 Mads in there. I probably didn't say it, but there's a million of them. History of the World Part 1 from Mel Brooks, which is a pretty good movie. And I thought this was funny. He was in the Munsters Revenge, the 1980s made-for-TV Munsters movie. Speaking of all the Munster stuff going on recently, I thought that was kind of hilarious. We have Vera Miles playing Kate Powell, who's the loving wife and distraught mother. She played in the movie The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance with, why am I blanking on his name? The guy who was in Rear Window, and also, now I'm going to go crazy. He was also in It's a Wonderful Life. You know who I'm talking about?
I'm checking right now. John Wayne?
No.
James Stewart?
Yes.
Okay.
Jimmy Stewart. There you go. And she was in Psycho and Psycho 2. So
wow.
She was in some straight up big time horror movies. Which, speaking of that, we're going to have a discussion. I was coming up with like possible ideas of slashers to include for next season, and I don't know if Norman Bates counts. He's on the spectrum, but I don't know if he's a true slasher or not.
Why?
I mean, if you want to argue that he is, that's fine. I
don't have a great argument, but it's like, maybe it's like a slasher light, like a diet slasher.
He's definitely on the way to being a slasher.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
We'll have to conjure up all the slasher films, because we're gonna have a lot of them. There's gonna be a lot, and we're gonna have to kick some to the curb.
That's my problem, is because even if you go with the established franchises and we cover every movie in those franchises, even if we just do quick reviews of each one, there's a lot in those series. I mean, how many Nightmare on Elm Street, how many Friday the 13th are? I mean, there's a ton. So
it's probably going to have to be one of those things where we say, okay, this week we're doing Friday the 13th, and it's like, okay, you pick your favorite, and why, and then briefly discuss the others.
I was thinking that we might, and this is, we can, finalize this before we get to that season, that we would discuss maybe like take a whole month to each individual slasher, and then maybe like start with the early half of their movie careers and discuss like our favorites, and maybe mention the other ones, and then like the second part of the month be the later half of their like parts 1 and 2 basically.
Oh yeah, that actually would be good.
Okay. That's what I thought about, but then I was thinking about, I was like, Norman Bates could be maybe like a November like lead in, like he's not technically there, but he's on the way. You know? But anyways, Barry Gordon plays Steve Powell in this movie. He's the whiny teenager and the bane of his existence to his parents, like most teenagers are. and he is our first ghost fucker of the evening.
Of course he is.
Give a clap, everybody, for the ghost fucker. I mean, here he is in all of his glory.
Little perv.
What I thought funny about this guy is that he is a prolific voice actor, and here's just some of the cartoons he's done voices for: Jabberjaw, the Smurfs, the Jetsons, and the one that most people our age would remember is the original and also the new video game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in which he played Donatello and Bebop. So,
oh wow,
kind of interesting that the guy that was in this Spirit is Willing movie was from my childhood, I'd heard his voice all the time, didn't even realize it.
Oh my God.
We have John MacGyver playing Uncle George, who's a self-made millionaire, twice over yacht owner, and the second ghost fucker of the film, quote unquote.
Good God.
I say ghost in this case in a roundabout way, and I'll explain a little bit later. But yeah, anyways, he was in Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Manchurian Candidate, the original film, Midnight Cowboy, and I thought this was funny. He was in the Apple Dumpling Gang. I don't know if you ever saw that with Don Knotts and Tim Conway, but yeah, that was a pretty fun little movie back in the 80s for kids, at least. We have Cass Daly, who is playing. Let's see. I don't know why this copied this twice. Cass Daly's playing Felicity Twitchell, the homely spinster that is tired of being cucked. And we have Jill Townsend playing 3 different parts in this movie. We have Jenny Pruitt, Priscilla Weems, and Carol Weems as the 3 characters she's playing. She's playing triple duty as a ghost maid that likes to get down. 2 sisters descended from the same family tree as said ghost, and one is a hippie spiritualist and the other a librarian. And Jill was in the 7% Solution, and she was in the 1980 Mummy film, The Awakening, which is kind of an interesting. I mean, it's not really a mummy movie; it's more of like a ghost mummy. It's weird, but anyways. Okay. And then rounding out the cast, we have Robert Donner playing Ebenezer Twitchell, who is the ship captain ghost, the cheating spouse, and a gold digger.
This sounds like a fucking porno.
It is. I'll explain the synopsis here and you kind of get the gist of it. So shortly after being offered the hand of a wealthy shipping magnate's daughter, a gold-digging ship captain spends his wedding night with a hot maid. The homely heiress, betrayed and alone, kills the cheating couple, but not before her husband kills her. Skipping ahead about 80 years and multiple renters who met untimely ends, we are introduced to our modern, quote-unquote, family, modern in the 60s at least.
Yeah.
The Powells, who are taking a vacation in New England following the orders of Ben's, or the father's employer. Basically, he got low in his back, or got down in his back. He wasn't doing his job quite up to their specs, and they're like, okay, take a vacation. You might not have a job when you get back, but you got to go right now. So that's kind of where he's at. He's afraid he won't have a job when he gets out of it, but they're going to make the most of it. When misfortunes began happening around the rental house, Ben and Kate are quick to blame their whiny brat of a son, but it is actually the work of the 3 angry ghosts. Because in the movie, the ghosts are always fighting each other because, of course, the homely heiress is tired of being cucked because every time she turns around, the hot maid and the captain are always fucking.
Jesus.
And she gets pissed and throws stuff at them. And then sometimes whenever the hot maid decides that she's not being protected well enough by the captain, she gets mad at him and they just all fight. So,
oh my God.
Let's see. Hatches fly, shit gets broken, yachts continuously sink and then rise back out of the water, and of course, ghosts do some fucking. So in this movie, you've got the 3 ghosts that are in the love triangle. At least 2 of them are, and then the one's just kind of off to the side, pissed. You've got, you've got the son who ends up sleeping with a hot maid ghost because he thinks that she is the, Jen, or she's actually Priscilla, her descendant or whatever, long time, cousin or whatever you want to call her, because they look exactly the same, but he ends up fucking the ghost instead and then realizes after the fact.
Does it actually show, it's not going to show them fucking, but does it show them like getting hot and heavy?
Basically she starts to strip down, and then like later it's like he's putting his clothes back on. I mean,
okay.
It doesn't actually show them, but it that he does basically tell, whenever Priscilla shows up to the party that they're throwing, because they're trying to get the ghost all together, because this is the funny part of it. So Cass Daly's character, Felicity, the cuck, she is sick of being cucked. So she thinks that if she gets a bunch of beauty supplies brought to her, that she can doll herself up, and that the ghost captain will fall in love with her and maybe actually choose her for the first time. So they're trying to get her to show up to this party they're throwing. And then Priscilla, who is in communication with the spirits because she's the hippie spiritualist, shows up or is on her way to the party, but ends up she's intercepted before she can get in there by her, ancestor, the hot maid, and then the hot maid ends up, getting down with basically anybody that'll get with her. I mean, there's I didn't list it, but one of the actors that's in one of our other films that we're discussing, John Astin, who plays in, the Frighteners and who's Gomez Adams. He plays this psychiatrist who is called up by Uncle George, because when Uncle George sees that his nephew is buying all these beauty supplies and this lingerie, he naturally assumes that his nephew is gay.
Oh.
So he decides to get a psychiatrist to scare him straight. In other words, this was another time, people don't go woke crazy on me. You got to stay with me on this. They different times. So John Astin shows up to the party, and he's sitting there asking a bunch of questions to the son, Steve, and then Steve thinks that John Astin is the gay guy and gets really creeped out by him and gets away from him as soon as possible. And so when John Astin is outside and he's trying to figure out what to do, the hot maid tempts him all around to the side, and then and it's implied that they do the nasty too while he's outside. So she gets with everybody. She doesn't care. She's indiscriminate.
She is a host.
The funny thing is that her other descendant, the Carol, who's the librarian, has been discussing the history of the family quite a bit with Ben, because he's finally came around at this point in the movie to realizing that, that there is ghosts in the house. And that's when his wife gets jealous because she thinks he's cheating on her with the pretty young librarian. So there's that whole triangle going on in this movie.
Holy shit, dude.
It's actually, I'm going to throw this out there. This is the best William Castle movie that I've watched for any of these episodes. It really is. It's actually a decent movie. I mean, it's funny at parts. The ghosts are legit. They're throwing hatchets at people's head. The very first thing that happens to Steve is they push him out of a 3-story window on the hillside, and he's only barely saved by his parents. And then later on in the movie, Uncle George has been strung up by Felicity Twitchell. When he goes upstairs to try to find Steve, he's found hanging there. So Ben had to save him at that point. So these ghosts are they're out for blood. I mean, they don't, if they're not fucking, they're pissed off.
Yeah, they're out for blood and semen. Jesus.
And what I was going to say is, so not only do we have the people that hook up the way they do, but Uncle George, at the end of the movie, he actually becomes attracted to the homely heiress, Felicity Twitchell, and she decides that she's going to give up on chasing after her deadbeat, literally, captain, the husband. And so she tempts George outside and takes him to this big Lover's Bluff area, and then pushes him over. And then whenever he's dead, at the end of the movie, as the family's driving away in the car, it basically implies that Uncle George and the cuck are getting busy on the back of their convertible. So there you go. I mean,
wow.
Uncle George gets some too.
Holy shit.
If you have a chance to watch this movie, honestly, it's not really a bad William Castle movie at all. I was actually surprised. I'm going to give it the patented Nick Cage rating of Willy's Wonderland, because it's cheesy as hell, but it's entertaining for most of its runtime. So there you go.
I can't even with you right now.
But speaking of ghosts getting down, not a strangers to Ghost getting it on. When I told Donnie G about this week's theme, he definitely had to weigh in on the subject. Here is his review of a real gem from Video Smash Up's back room.
And now, it's time for another episode of I think I downloaded the wrong movie.
What's up, everyone? It's Donnie G, and today we are answering the age-old question: Does Velma spit or swallow? That's right, today I'm breaking down the animated short, Velma Finds a Different Kind of Ghost. Synopsis on this: while stumbling her way through a dark and scary warehouse in search of an elusive apparition, in classic Velma fashion, she stumbles and loses her glasses. And of course, whenever she finds them and puts them back on, she looks up and there he is. Ghost Cock. A literal floating cock and balls. Now, Velma, she wouldn't be Velma if she weren't inquisitive, and wanting to apply the scientific method to see exactly how real ghost cock is, she examined its full functionality by blowing it. Okay, now this one was a fun one for me. The animation quality was really good. The voice actress, she was spot on, and without giving too many spoilers, there was a bit of actual humor. It wasn't overly humorous, but it was cute. And if you stay until the end, you will see that there is a possibility of a part 2 in the near future. The runtime on this, it's only about 3.5 minutes long. There is literally no story or plot to it whatsoever, but it's still not bad at all, especially if you still have a childhood crush on America's favorite nerd. So for this one, I'm giving it a solid 3.5 out of 5 eggplants. Like I said, for what it is, it really is enjoyable. Alright, now that's it for the show tonight, friends. You can follow us on Instagram, follow the show at Death Holler Podcast, and you can follow yours truly at Big Bald MFER. And until next time, friends, get fucked.
How is that?
The funny thing about that is, and I discussed this with him, you know, that you saw in the chat. That's not the only Velma and ghost fucking that goes on. There's actually a live action one with another sex star, Kendra James, who plays Daphne in that one, and they go into a house. Once it's or the mystery machine breaks down, they have to spend the night in this spooky house, and this ghost possesses them, and they basically fuck each other because the ghost is like a perv, and that's what he does. So.
Oh my God. You know, it's funny because I was Googling, I was trying to find to see if there was like a porno remix of the Scooby-Doo song. And there wasn't, but unfortunately I was the unwilling victim. This ghost was not willing. And I had to see, I saw like, not a clip, but like, you know, a screenshot or whatever, thumbnail of what sounds like this, but the actual version, not, because this sounds like it was animated.
Yeah, that's what it was. He was describing that was animated.
Okay, and this was not, but it was literally just a dick and balls, and it looks like she was definitely enjoying the time. But I couldn't see anything else, no other part of the body, but it wasn't animated. So I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Moving on to tonight's movies that we're discussing, we'll get the funny one out of the way first here. Just continue that theme before we have to get serious. The first movie up is The Frighteners from 1996, directed by Peter Jackson, written by Fran Walsh, who is actually, well, I don't know if she's his wife. I wrote that in the notes, but then I got to listen to him on the like commentaries, and he says his partner. So at least it's you know. Maybe they're not married in like a religious way, but like they've been together forever and they got kids together. So they're a couple. And Peter Jackson, they kind of collaborated on the writing of this. Music is by Danny Elfman, as we have discussed before. And I'm just going to throw this out there because they had Danny Elfman on there. And I mean, he brought it up because people are going to have that discussion. They're like, well, Danny Elfman's stuff sounds the same. And like Danny Elfman even said, he's like that he always appreciated whenever he was younger the composers that you could listen to and you could realize that they, you know, it was their work because they were kind of consistent.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like the composer that, you know, did Star Wars, and, you know, like in you know, Hans Zimmer kind of does some similar things, but like he said he always appreciated that, but he also said that he's he kind of joked and said he's only got 3 people living in his head. So if you hear Beetlejuice and it happens to sound like, you know, the Frighteners, he said he doesn't have that many people in his head, so the themes are going to sound the same or sound similar.
Yeah.
He says he tries, you know, so there's that. But I enjoy his music, so that's fine with me. This was made for a budget of $26 million US,
Wow.
and it only made 29.3 million.
Dang.
You want to take a guess at why that is?
Oh God, it was released the same time as something else.
Well, it wasn't really that, although it was released the same year as Scream, so it had that going against it. But they released this movie in the middle of summer. I don't know why it is so hard for movie, companies to understand that when you have a horror movie, if you just release it anytime after August, it'll probably do better.
Yeah.
But don't release it in July. I mean, that's a stupid time for a horror movie. It really is.
I mean, yeah, because the summer blockbusters, they're usually action films.
They're usually big dumb action films then, because people just turn their brains off. They're like, we're on vacation. We don't want that. We're just in here for the air conditioning anyways. You know, we don't want to have to think about this.
I guess so. Yeah. I had never really even thought about it. But I mean, we joked about starting spooky season early, and it's like you really do. It's a whole mood. It's a whole, I got my furry boots. I got my scarf. I got my blanket. I got my cup of coffee. I got my pumpkin spice latte. And my nose is cold, and I'm ready to snuggle in and watch some scary fucking movies. And I don't know why that's a thing. I mean, other than the fact that we love it, but you and I will do it all year long, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're just talking about the general audience, it's like it's like a holiday thing. It's like you want Christmas type movies around, you know, Thanksgiving to Christmas time, and you want your spooky season, your horror movies. You want them around Halloween, whether that be September, October, tend to be the 2 best months. And the only company who has ever figured this out and done well with it is Blumhouse. And that's the reason that they do so well, is because he knows, and he's like, okay, you know, when I'm releasing Halloween Ends, I'm releasing it in fucking October. And everybody's like, hell yeah, you are. Cause that makes sense. I mean, I just don't get it Universal had this movie. They had enough, you know, I mean, they gave a bunch of stuff to Peter Jackson to help make it. I mean, they had, you know, the confidence in it, but then they release it in the middle of summer, and then it just dies, you know. So,
which is crazy, because it's like, it's a horror, but it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy, so it's not like it's, I don't know. This isn't a spooky time. This is an anytime kind of scary movie.
I mean, yeah, I felt like, I mean, and they mentioned that on the behind the scenes information, because Peter Jackson is one of those that realized because DVDs it was mostly Laserdisc at the time, but he saw that DVDs were starting to become a thing. So he recorded every single thing of the process, and like has an actual full on documentary on like the special features of his disc. And like he mentions that he's like, they released it at the wrong time and it just killed the movie, you know,
okay. Fun fact. Scream was released right before Christmas in 1996.
That doesn't surprise me. I almost feel like I watched this in the theater. I could be wrong about that, but I know that I watched this shortly after this came out, The Frighteners. I mean,
yeah.
I want to say I saw it in the theater at some point, but I you know, because I don't, but I don't know. It's like kind of blurry. I mean, I might have saw it like right when it came out on Blu-ray or something too, or I mean, not Blu-ray, but DVD at the time. It was, I mean, I was excited about this movie, but it just, I don't think that it was very popular because of that.
I remember the first time I watched this movie, it was days ago.
Is that really the truth?
Yes, it is.
Really, when you watch this,
I have never seen it. I've always known it was a decent movie, and like my husband was shook. He was like, "No fucking way." He's like, "This movie is. You're gonna love this movie." So we'll see. We'll see how much I loved it.
I'm glad that you is an introduction for you, because it's going to be interesting to see your opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
principal players, we have Michael J. Fox playing Frank Bannister, who is a widower, a con man, and a spiritual medium. He is primarily known for three main characters. I mean, you either know him from Family Ties when he played Alex Keaton. You know him for Back to the Future playing Marty McFly, which is my favorite Michael J. Fox character.
Yeah.
And then you know him you can know him from Spin City, where he played a character named Mike Flaherty. So, I mean, it's, that's the three main things he's known for. One of his first movies that he was ever in was a movie called Class of '84, which is kind of like a grindhouse type movie about this school that's like really run down and like run by these punks or whatever, and they're basically going around killing some of the other students type situation. He plays like the quiet, like a quiet mousy type character in the film. And then a lot of people know him from Teen Wolf. That was one of his bigger movies. And he was also in Mars Attacks. I mean, it's kind of like like throwing the horror comedy theme in there again.
Wait a second. What was he in Mars Attacks?
I want to say he was one of the presidential cabinet members or something.
Okay. God, they had so many fucking stars in that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was loaded. I mean, just the first thing you pull up is that the president, and that was, Jack Nicholson. So, I mean, it's a pretty big cast on that film. I'll wait for this to load here. But anyways, we have Trini Alvarado playing Lucy Linsky, who is a recent widower herself, wife to a husband that won't let go, and then the target of a serial killer from beyond the grave. Hey. And she was in a movie called The Staircase, which is actually a miniseries that came out in 2022. So she's still working. She was in the 1994 version of Little Women, and she was in a 1988 horror movie called The Chair, which is another movie about a ghost, but this time it's one that returns back to life after being killed by electrocution. We have Chi McBride playing Cyrus, a 70s era ghost, also a con man, a friend of Frank's. He is in does a voice in Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, that new Paramount Plus movie that's out.
I think the kids have seen that, but I have not. So,
according to Google, Michael J. Fox played Jason Stone in Mars Attacks. That doesn't mean anything because I don't know who that character is, but there you go. I mean, he was also in Gone in 60 Seconds, a Nick Cage classic, Pushing Daisies, and he's actually the voice of Nick Fury in the Marvel animated series, and he's done tons of TV work. We have Jim Fife playing Stewart, who's a 50s era ghost, a con man and a friend of Frank's. He was actually a big character in the X-Files and the Lone Gunman. He was one of those three guys that were the conspiracy theorists that were all the time giving Mulder like the information that he went off of.
Yeah.
If you ever watched that show.
No, I mean, I've seen it, but not enough to know specific characters.
He was actually in Ghostbusters 2, which we've already discussed. He played one of the Scoleri brothers, he was the ghost jogger, but that was an uncredited a part that they had in that.
That's crazy.
And then he was in the 1991 Dark Shadows TV series, which, of course, about Barnabas Collins, who's a vampire, and it's very overdramatic and all that, like a soap opera, but that's what it was with vampires.
Yeah, I remember. I think the Hubs liked Dark Shadows. I mean, we thought the movie was hilarious. I did not know about the show, but apparently he kind of liked the show. So
the show is actually not bad. I mean, if you're going to watch a soap opera, I mean, having like a supernatural element to it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think they had witches and all kinds of stuff on there. It was kind of cool. John Aston plays the judge. He's an Old West ghost. He is the ghost fucker in this film. And he is a friend of Frank's. Of course, he's Gomez Addams from the original Addams Family. He'll forever be known as that. Great part.
Yes.
Return of the Killer Tomatoes. He played the bad guy in that, and he's also in the animated version of that, the TV show of Killer Tomatoes.
Up.
Yeah, he did the voice for the same bad guy. They just took it from Return and then made it into the
Oh my
cartoon.
God. Love that cartoon.
He was in The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. with Bruce Campbell, which is a really good Western, but it's not one of those regular Western TV shows. It's got like a almost like a steampunk, like Weird West vibe to it.
Oh,
And
I
then,
like
of course, and John Astin was the mad scientist who made up all these gadgets before their time. Like he invents like a steam powered mine cart that Bruce Campbell has to use in like the second episode, I believe it is. And he was in Erie, Indiana. Now, do you remember that show at all? I love that show. Whenever
Nickelodeon.
when I was a kid, I believe it was on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
The one thing that everybody remembers about it is the Tupperware kids. Do you remember that episode? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, because Erie, Indiana reminded me of like a knockoff of Are You Afraid of the Dark or something. And I never got into it.
It was almost like a Goosebumps because like the Tupperware kids were basically these two creepy twins that never aged because their mother sealed them up in a big Tupperware dish every night whenever they went to bed. And so they always stayed basically preteens. And then like at the end of the episode, something happens to their mother. I think they might, I think it implies that they, got rid of her somehow. I don't know if it because it's been a while since I've seen it, if they actually say that they killed her. But anyways, they refuse to go back in the Tupperware, and they've aged and they're actually adults or something. So it's one of those type shows.
It said the original network was NBC, but I swear I primarily saw this on Nickelodeon.
It might have been in reruns or something. I remember it only had one season. It's criminally underrated too, because it had it was a good anthology type show. It was almost like Tales from the Crypt in a way. Like every episode had like a different baddie, but like it was, that had some supernatural element to them.
Okay.
And
it did have one season, but then it was followed by 19 episodes in one season. That's not like how it is now. It's like one season has like 8 episodes, but then you like have a mid-season like finale, and then you have a few more episodes. But holy shit, back in the day it was so different. Okay, and then it was followed by another show of the same thing called Erie, Indiana, The Other Dimension. And it was syndicated on the Disney Channel.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if Disney has that. They probably don't have it on Disney Plus because they suck. But I mean, it would be cool if they did.
Hold on, let's see where we can watch it. You can watch it on YouTube for free. Amazon Prime Video has it for free as well. There you go. Amazon sponsor us.
I might have to check that out because I really did like it as a kid. But I was also into Scary Stories Tell in the Dark, Goosebumps. This show was like right there. It was,
you were just a little creeper is what you were.
Yeah, basically. I wasn't like the kids in Sinister and planning to kill my parents by, tying them up and pouring gasoline over them. But hey, we all have our different things.
La Llareyna would not know. She did not watch it.
That might actually be a movie that you need to see. The second one for sure, because I think that it would be pretty. You might get freaked out by it, honestly.
Oh, that'll be fun then.
Funny thing is that John Astin was not in Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox, but he was in Teen Wolf 2 with Patrick Bateman. So there you go. There's a little connection there. We have Jake Busey playing Johnny Bartlett, the serial killer, alive and dead in the movie, a death, quote unquote, and he is a ghost that fucks, or at least it's highly implied. So there you go.
Good God.
He's actually in a 2021 horror movie set in Kentucky that I've never heard about and I want to watch now, called Bluegrass Spirits. It's about a haunted distillery. So I want to see this.
Yeah, that's right up your alley, literally.
Really? He was in the From Dusk Till Dawn TV series. He was all right in that, I remember. But he's like his dad. He plays over the top characters, like he always has. And he was in Stranger Things season 3. I didn't even think about it until I was like looking the notes up for this. He played like, well, I think one of the assistant lifeguards or something. He worked with Billy. So there you go.
I apparently do not remember this, but I want to say, I just have to bring it up. Have you ever seen, oh God, let me see if the movie shows up here. I think it's called Home Fries with Drew Barrymore. Yes.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
Okay. This movie is, they all have terrible Southern accents, okay? First off. Their name, okay. So Luke Wilson,
I can only imagine Drew Barrymore doing a Southern accent because she's mush mouth and kind of got a weird accent of her own. And I can only imagine her trying to translate that into a Southern. But go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
They gave her the trailer park Southern accent, so it worked.
Oh God.
Okay, it worked. And she was a little sweetie pie. So, anyways, this is not a horror film, but I. Do you know who Luke Wilson is?
Yes.
Okay. Now, imagine him playing brothers with Jake Busey.
That does not compute. That does not compute.
Not at all. And I'm trying to remember if maybe one of them is not like their dad is not, because they don't look anything like each other, but they treat each other. They are so weird. But anyways, Jake Busey's name in that movie was, I'm not joking, Angus.
Was what?
Angus. Like the beef.
Angus? Okay.
I'm like, do what now?
I could see, I mean, I don't know how he did it, but Jake Busey's kind of got a Southern twang because Gary Busey's kind of got it's a weird Southern twang. It's like,
yes.
I don't know, it's like California meets Texas mixed in with something else, but they do have there's definitely something there. So I could see him maybe pulling that off.
Yeah, he pulled it off just fine. Their mom was Catherine O'Hara, who we know from plenty of Tim Burton films. And she did really well.
And Schitt's Creek, where she puts on this ridiculous voice for that show, but it's meant to be that way. So
I think using the Southern accent and saying Angus all the time, it really worked. So Catherine O'Hara did fine, and so did Jake Busey. But Owen Wilson and Drew Barrymore, they needed some help.
Owen
sure.
or Luke?
Luke Wilson. My bad, Luke Wilson.
It's funny because Luke plays a Southern character in Zombieland 2, and it's kind of over the top in that one too.
I could see Owen Wilson closer to Luke or Jake Busey in terms of like playing brothers.
Wow.
They could
really? Wow.
But yeah, Luke Wilson and Jake Busey, it was not popping. So anyways, that's a side tangent. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I mean, that's the reason I bring this up, because I just like discussing some of these other movies as we go through here.
Yeah.
Dee Wallace, who's been on our list already, and I'll get to it, playing Patricia Bradley. She's the abused daughter, quote unquote.
Quotation marks.
Psychopath. Yeah, psychopath and a certified ghost fucker. She's a living ghost fucker, kind of like Steve was in Spirits Are Willing. So
she's a penetrator too.
Yes.
What is that called when you strap on and
pegging?
She's a pegger.
He definitely enjoys that.
Oh yeah.
He's into that sort of thing.
He was.
There's a whole scene, if you haven't watched it, folks. I think it's only in the director's cut, where the two of them, while Lucy is investigating, but she's telling Patricia to get out of there, and Patricia says, "Okay, give me just a second, I've got to go." And like she goes in there and reveals that she's with Johnny, and like and the two of them are together, and she's got like a butcher knife in her hand, and she just keeps stabbing him in his chest, and he's getting off to it. I mean, you can tell they really enjoy their little games together.
Yes.
So we had Dee Wallace is going to be in the Monsters. Speaking of that, the Rob Zombie Monsters, which is hilarious. It's all coming back, folks. It's all tied in together. She played the mom in the original Critters movie. She played the mom in Cujo.
Cujo, I'm sorry, I have to give a tangent. Cujo was just a Karen's, like her side of the story of a misunderstood puppy. And you cannot convince me otherwise.
to me, it was Big Yell or his Old Yeller. But if he was a bigger dog, and he was, went on a murderous rampage before the son actually went out there and shot him. Spoiler alert for anybody that's not watching that movie. But you don't need the trauma that I lived with as a child, so don't watch it.
We do not need. We never got Cujo's side of the story. He was dead by the time they showed up, and we don't know what happened. She just fucking a psycho. That's what it is.
She was in The Howling. She was in The House of the Devil. That's where she was the renter at the beginning of the movie.
Yes, I remember that.
Small part she had. She's in The Lords of Salem, another Rob Zombie film. That's probably why she's in The Munsters. She's in 3 from Hell from Rob Zombie. He doesn't just use Sherry Moon zombie guys. He reuses all of his actors. So don't give Sherry Moon all this shit, even though we do. Just don't do it.
You have a job when you get a job with him, you have a job for life.
Yes, it's he's one of those directors. If he likes you, you're going to be with him from then on. And even if you don't necessarily have the acting chops to pull the part off, but we'll leave it at that. And she's actually in an episode of Supernatural. Did you know that?
Wait, what? Into the Mystic.
Yeah. Into the Mystic. It was 2016.
I don't remember. I binge watched all those so hard.
Well, 2016 would have been, in my opinion, on its major decline. So I would forgive anybody for not remembering most of those episodes. I know there's going to be SPN fans out there that want to kill me after saying that. And you went and you saw how crazy they are. So I just doom myself to murder. But I mean, as a fan of the series, it was not on its best legs toward the end of its run.
It was the 11th episode of season 11.
This might have been during Carver's season. I can't remember. And he was fine. But then right after that, we had Dab, and then it went downhill big time.
Oh, my God. I'm looking. It's the 11th episode of season 11. Sam and Dean investigate a case where people are suffering violent deaths after hearing a mysterious song. How come I don't remember that? Anyways, we'll move on.
We have a darling of the genre. We have Jeffrey Combs playing Milton Dammers, federal agent and student of the occult and a nut job. He has been on this list already because he was in House on Haunted Hill, the remake, as the evil Dr. Mengele, stand-in. It was haunting the place.
Yeah.
But he's primarily known for Reanimator and its sequels and the movie From Beyond. But he's been in a ton of stuff. Like Jeffrey Combs is just awesome. So, I mean, when he shows up, it's generally going to be an over-the-top movie, but a good one.
Okay.
And I got to throw it in here because Arlie Ermy is awesome. And he played Howells, who was the gatekeeper for the cemetery. So, he doesn't. Arlie Ermy can't act. He plays Arlie Ermy, but you're getting Arlie Ermy, and that's
what I say.
So.
I was thinking he's playing himself.
He's always played himself. Like when they hire him, they want him for himself. They know that he's not going to act any other way.
They like him for him.
They like me for me.
See, you knew where I was going.
So synopsis. After what was assumed to be an accident caused by his drinking, Frank Bannister is left a widower and able to see the spirits of the dead. Unwilling to go back to his prior career as an architect, he uses his newfound powers to con others into paying him to cleanse their houses of ghosts, which are actually being haunted by 3 of his spirit friends, Cyrus, the Judge, and Stewart. This seems to be working fine until one of Frank's recent clients is found dead of a heart attack, setting off a chain of murders that has both the police and even Death himself pursuing Frank. The living and the dead are whipped into a frenzy. Old lovers unite. Death tallies continue to climb. Mysteries are solved. And yes, dear listeners, ghosts are fucked in this movie. So there you go.
And they like it.
Let's discuss that now. What is we can go into the story and all that, just the general breakdown, but what did you like about this movie? And we got the ghost fucking scene in particular. We've already discussed the scene between Patricia and Johnny Bartlett, but there's another at the beginning of the movie when it starts out and she's being chased by Johnny. The cheat in that scene is that you think that she's being scared by him, but actually that's another one of their sex games. Like he's chasing her around like, I'm going to get you. It's foreplay, and you don't realize it till later, but that's what that is.
Fucking weirdos.
Well, she's fucking a ghost. I mean, that's already weird enough on its own. So, anyways.
Yeah. Can I say that these two in that scene, I wonder how much fun they had doing that, because they both did a pretty good job. I mean,
well,
go ahead.
I was going to say the funny thing is the way that they had to film this movie, the ghosts were never actually in the same scene with the person who was doing the acting. They were completely separated, and the only interaction they had was that the person who was quote unquote living recorded their part of it, and then the person who was quote unquote the ghost had to sit there and listen to them, like a recording of what they'd done, and then they responded to that. So that's how they did the special effects for this movie.
Reverend,
which is actually goes to show you how good the actors are in this movie.
Reverend, hang tight for a second.
Yes.
I think there's somebody in my house that I don't know who they are, and my dogs are going crazy. Give me 1 second.
All right.
I'm back.
Hopefully everything was okay with that.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to cut this out because I just bounced out in a hurry. But yes, it was just my cousin, and
Okay.
yeah. Anyways, all is well.
So, anyways, I was discussing the fact that I think it's pretty amazing the job that they did acting, because everybody in this movie was not even really acting with each other. It was like the ghosts were acting with each other, and the living were acting, but if there was any interaction between the two of them, it was totally separate, and they had to just go off of like their assumptions of what the character was doing or saying at that time.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, because there was scenes where Patricia had her hand out and she's basically oh God, I should have gotten all the actresses' names, because I'm like Trini, who played Lucy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That one. So Lucy is at the house trying to get her out, and she sees her with her hand out, and she knows that something's up, because at this point she knows that there's ghosts, that they're real, and she's basically petting him, and you see him there, and then you see him not there, and the hand movements are really good. But back to the penetrating scene, the pegging, if you will. It really did look like she was holding him and stabbing him. So I'm like, it is so hard for me right now to hear what you have just said about them not being in there at the same time, the same room, and not think that they didn't at least have a scene where she was practicing, with him. I don't know. They did so good.
It was in the bloopers, like that scene where she was stabbing him.
Uh-huh.
She said that there was they were telling her basically how high to stab so that it would like show up better whenever they like switched it over.
Yeah.
She said there was one scene where she was stabbing, and they said They's like, D, you be stabbing him like in near his nether region or something. The way you need to raise it up a little bit. So, and she broke out laughing because she was like stabbing him in the nuts at one point or something. So.
Oh my God. No, I think they did a great job. Like I said, it looked like the two actors were really enjoying themselves, so they both did a really good job.
I liked this was those movies where the characters made the movie, and I'm not even just saying that. When we get to the trivia, it was like a literal thing. But I mean, like I enjoyed just the interaction between the like actors in the movie. Like most of them are likable. Even Dammers, who is like just a despicable person, the way that Jeffrey Combs like made that character, and he added all that stuff to him. It was he's got your attention when he's on screen because he's so weird. Like he just stands out.
He is weird. I did not like him particularly. At least they made him useful in the film, so that's a good thing. When I say I didn't like him, you're not supposed to like this character. So
no, you're not.
Yeah, at all. He disgusts me. He irks me out, and I think that's to have those kind of feelings in a film, and where the character actually does make a little bit of sense. Bravo is all I got to say, because just like those characters that people hate them so much, hate their characters so much, they hate them in real life. That's when the actor did an amazing job.
Yeah, I agree with you, and he did that, and then Johnny Bartlett's just played by Jake Busey's like so crazy and out there that he really made that character stand out too, as far as because the better your bad guy is, the better the movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people realize that, but that's really the case. What did you think about the effects of like the ghost in the movie and then some of the other stuff in it?
So they looked good, but in a cheesy kind of way. So aside from a few ghost fucking scenes, you can let your preteens watch this film, because it's not, especially if your kid's scared of ghosts or whatever, or scary movies. I think this could technically be a pretty decent intro scary movie, that they're not so scary. I think the effects in terms of them looking gross, because the ectoplasm is starting to like deteriorate
Run out
their
of their eyes,
yeah,
and their nose, and
it's starting to like deteriorate them as spirits, which is interesting, because the bodies do that. I thought it was a very interesting way to do that to spirits, because you don't really ever think about that,
Well, what they were going for in the movie is that they were wanting the spirits or the ghost to look like what their body would be in the grave, or something that you would think that they would look like. Of course, that's why Judge, being the oldest of the undead or of the ghosts in the movie, like he's falling apart. Like you can see more and more of his body, like you can see his spine. You can see parts of his if you look real close at his head, you can see like in his scalp or whatever is like rotted away, and part of his skull is showing through. And of course he's got the bone jaw that's hanging out.
Yeah.
So it's and the one that you see it on the most in the movie is actually on Lucy's husband, because he starts out being just, other than the fact that he's just a spirit and he looks like he's been crying or whatever because of the ectoplasm. Like if you see him later on in the movie, he's got like this rot that started at his neck, where you can kind of see the skin is deteriorating a little bit. So
yeah,
it's a neat effect. And the funny thing is, you say that about the ghosts, that they're not scary. If you see them on the special features without like the ghost effect around them, I mean, they would make like legit creepy ass undead. But that was the thing that they ran into whenever they were doing the movie, that they were afraid of that people would be confused that if they were zombies or not. So that's the reason they went the whole Casper route and made them like bluish white tint and made them transparent, because they're like, they said that was an easy shorthand to let people know these are ghosts. Even though they might look like zombies, they're ghosts.
And I think it works, honestly. I thought it did pretty good.
Yeah, it's a quick visual cheat, or well, not really a cheat, but I mean it's a quick visual clue to give the audience without them having to, it's like, okay, that's a ghost. It stands out from everything else.
Yeah. Now, we got to see some of the people that died immediately and they get sucked into the light, which is awesome, to kind of see, because that's what's supposed to happen. Some people clearly don't go towards the light, but I wonder what happens to their spirit after. Because we see in the scenes where Death, who happens to be Jake Busey's character, Johnny Bartlett, if you will, where he kills them. He's got the how do you pronounce it? Is it the scythe?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got the scythe, but it seems like if you kill a ghost, if Death kills a ghost, they end up going to the afterlife anyways. They don't have. It's like they don't get the choice of going into the light at that point. They have to go on, like. Because if you remember at the end of the movie, there's a scene where Frank gets he grabs Patricia and it's a cool scene, but I don't know I guess he grabs what I'm trying to say is he grabs Patricia like out of her spirit out of her body and or her soul and like pulls her up into heaven with him because he sees that it's like open. The thing that gets me is that like Johnny never even attempts to do that to anybody. He just tries to crush their heart. But I guess Johnny doesn't care if they, about how he wants the death to be consistent. He doesn't. So his MO is to give him the heart attack, even though he could do the same thing that Frank did and kill him just that much easier by pulling them directly out of their bodies,
which was pretty fucking cool actually, because you just don't expect it. All of a sudden you think everything like, oh shit, that they won. Then all of a sudden you just see fucking Patricia just being yanked, her soul being yanked out of her. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
And then, she gets yanked out. And then like her and Frank like travel, and the Johnny follows up the, the light tunnel. And then like Frank makes it all the way. I mean, he loses her part way up. And then like he goes all the way up to the pearly gates and he sees Stu and
oh yeah,
again,
okay.
and,
So yeah, they made it.
So they made it. So they were killed by Johnny, but that meant they immediately went to the afterlife.
Okay, so that does answer that question because I was like, what happened? Because I just didn't see what's her name, Lucy's husband. He got turned into fucking hamburger meat.
Yeah, he got chopped up. I mean, his whole face like got sliced in half or whatever.
Yeah, and then just got thrown on a car. She didn't see it, which again, fucking awesome.
I forgot about that. Like just that his body was laying in like this puddle or whatever. Which Stewart's did something similar. It deflated whenever he got like killed that way, but like it was just like a hunk of meat laying on the car. Of course she couldn't see it.
It looked hella cool.
The one thing that I didn't like about the special effects, I mean, and then you can chime in on this and go over what and continue on with what you're saying. I did not like Death does not hold up. The graphical effects they did for the Grim Reaper do not hold up now. Like they're very cheesy.
Oh yeah, they are. For 1996, not too terrible.
That it wasn't for the time, no.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that in the trivia about how much they focused on all that stuff. But you watch it now. And they had an option to go the route of making because all the people in the movie that were ghosts, they did the practical effects and then they used digital effects to make them, have that transparent ghostly effect.
Yeah.
And it worked even now because the practical held up, even if the transparency is a little cheesy in parts, the practical effects still hold up, but they didn't do that at all with the Grim Reaper. They talked about it and they talked about having like an actual puppet style creature that they were going to make up in place of it, and then they were like, no, because of the way he needs to move, let's just make him all computer graphics. And Peter Jackson was intensely proud of it at the time.
Yeah,
but it just does not hold up now, like at all. Like I mean,
technically they could go redo it if they really wanted to. I think it's a good representation of the time, and I am glad that they did it the way that they did, because the way he moved, I agree 100%, because I was going to say the way they had it moving, there would have been no way you could have done that, any other way.
Oh, they said it. They said that he needed to move more. He needed to float basically.
Yeah.
And and they couldn't get that effect. They tried and they couldn't get anywhere close to it. So they scrapped it.
Yeah. It would have taken too much time, too much money. Yeah. I mean, it looks the way that it looks now, but that's just because we're spoiled with how so much video games have gotten better and movies, everything in general. So we're
computer graphics.
Oh yeah, for
Computer
sure.
graphics have drastically improved since that time period. Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to bring up how the judge had his time to shine, and he got in his ghost fucking, which
we have to discuss that because that's the theme of the episode. But go ahead.
Was consent?
That's the thing. I don't know if you can say he got consent because when he rises up, that line, I mean, would get you canceled these days.
Oh my God. I love it when they're still like that. Ugh.
I love it when they lay still like that, you know, and it's just like, damn, Judge. It's like...
And like, he didn't bang another ghost. He banged a body.
Yeah, well, it was implied that the body, and that was that's an odd thing, you know, now that we mention it. I mean, that implies in the lore of this movie, this universe, that the way the Egyptians preserved the dead tied the soul to the body itself.
Yeah.
Because the soul never left the body. It was in the sarcophagus in the mummy. And I mean, you know, so it had to be for him to be banging it. So it's like, I mean, that's a weird thought. I mean, it's a weird bit of headcanon. It's like, you know, because they preserved them so that they would be able to, you know, better, so their body and soul would be able to both, you know, go on to the afterlife and whatever. But it basically, in the lore of this film, it bound them to earth. Like they're stuck there in the body that they were entombed in.
Oh, it's bound, but technically, wouldn't that mean that he wouldn't have been allowed in? Like that wrapping, it protects the spirit from coming out, but would it protect his spirit dick from coming in? Theoretically.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about ghost fucking here. There's a lot of variables you got to figure in. I mean,
and furthermore, if I may present, if he made it through that binding, can she now escape through her TMP, tight mummy pussy now? Can she just get out? Her spirit can come out through there now because he has, you know, pegged a hole.
Desecrated the bindings.
Yes, I think she's free now. So I say consent was involved.
Well, maybe it was. Maybe that was her way of getting out of there. And she's like, finally, somebody is, you know, found me, you know, worthy to fuck out of this world.
It's
so
a really fucked up Snow White tale. Instead of kissing the dead to free them.
She's laid there for, you know, thousands of years just waiting for her prince to walk up and fuck her into the afterlife.
Fuck her into freedom. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, and you know what? She was there for so long, too.
Where he's like... I was just going to say, I think it's funny right after that because he's got that scene where he's like, he's so happy and he keeps breaking. He's like, I'm not shooting blanks anymore.
Oh, like... Oh my God.
Because, you know, he had that scene right before that talking about how his ectoplasm was drying up, which is a whole sexual thing in and of itself, you know.
Yeah, this movie was fucking comedy gold, like one thing after another. And it's so funny because if you're just a kid and you're not getting all the inferences that they're making, it's just like, oh my God, this ghost is dying, you know, but you're an adult now and you're like, ectoplasm.
I like that. I like that too. I mean, even though it has nothing to do with the sexual stuff of it, you know, where Frank and Trini's character, Linsky or whatever, she's there and they're like, you know, having the discussion over dinner and, you know, because they have that ghost scene, basically the scene from Patrick Swayze's Ghost, where it's like, tell me what he's saying, you know, is he still here? And of course he was right beside Lucy. And then you know, it's funny hearing him because like she can't hear anything he's saying and he's like, oh, we had the best relationship, and then she turns around to Frank, things were bad at the end, like we were growing apart, and he's like, Lucy, you bitch, you know, like
oh yeah, everything she did, it was the opposite of what he was like. Oh, she likes red wine, I like white wine. Like
it's like, I would like white wine, and he's like, what? You know, like freaking out because he was one of those husbands that never like listened to her at all. Like he always order for her, you know. And I thought they did a pretty good job of like conveying that with like little, just little bits of dialogue like that.
When he was first introduced, I thought he was gay because he was freaking out over his lawn gnomes and his fence. And I understand freaking out about your fence if someone just burst through with their fucking jalopy. I get it, but the way he responded, I thought he was a gay character, and I was like, oh wait, he's dating what appears to be the main female character. Oh my God.
The funny thing, you talk about Snow White, but I was sitting there thinking, honestly, during the movie, I was like, if they did a live action version of Snow White, she would have been the one to play it at the time, because, she had extremely pale skin in this movie. So I was just there thinking, I was like, she kind of looks like a real life Snow White if I ever saw one, in the movie.
That is true.
And the funny thing is too, they have this whole thing about how Frank is basically one of the dead anyways, because he hangs out with spirits. His house is falling apart around him. He's living in a haunted home, and he's the one that haunts it. That's kind of one of the neat little twists in the movie. And he has stopped living because when his wife died, he basically died with her. But it's like, Lucy looks dead, and, it's like, maybe that's the attraction for him. I never thought about that till just now, but like her pale skin and everything, like, I don't know, like he's still in death mode himself. So maybe that's why they hit it off so well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the chemistry of the two characters, though, in general, just from the beginning, I don't know, they just came off so comfortable with each other. You don't always get that right away.
For sure.
So I don't know. I think that together they worked really well, and they didn't. Even if they had not become, love interests at all, I think they still had great chemistry.
Oh yeah, and I'm gonna throw this out there because this definitely applies to the next movie we're talking about, but it applies to this one. This is one of those, I'm sure that the woke mob would come back and throw a million, different allegations against this movie, but it does one thing that they can't do right anymore, and that is they have a powerful female character without making the guy in the film look, weak or stupid in comparison to make her, because I feel like Frank and Lucy both stood their ground in their different ways, and they were both competent, and they were both strong characters. And neither one of them and it's just better writing that way whenever you have the female character, because she's kicking like she realizes what Damer's triggers are, and like she plays them to a hilt. Like she knows that he can't stand her screaming, so that's her way to get away from him.
Oh my God.
And she's a competent doctor. She brings Frank back, and then she's a strong female character without having to either say it or, have Frank be an idiot by comparison. She's
a strong, independent, extremely pale woman.
Extremely pale woman. Like even Dee Wallace was like pale-ish in this movie, but she still like she had color to her skin. It's just like you're looking at Trini and it's like, you need to get some sun sometime. It's, jeez.
Some vitamin D.
Vitamin D.
Jinx.
Yeah, she got that vitamin D.
Oh,
in the movie at least.
Shut up.
So, is there anything else about the story that you want to bring up? I liked it. It was, it wasn't like the flashiest story ever, but it got the point across.
It wasn't flashy, but it was consistent. And just like the one hole I thought that was left in the story, you basically told me, no, this is how they explain that away. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I don't think that they left anything out. They covered everything. They explained everything. I don't know. It worked too.
Yeah, the world was consistent. Like Lucy gets the ability just like Frank because she had a near-death experience, so that tied in. There's the consecrated ground is something that's in a lot of, lore. And I like that they worked that in, that they had to go to the chapel in the hospital to get rid of the ashes and kind of gave me supernatural vibes a little bit,
yeah.
There was, I liked how they worked in the stuff with Dammers, he was in all those different cults or whatever, all those years. And something that they worked in that you only get whenever you think about it is the the scene where he's got the butt donut and he has to sit on it, but because he's got hemorrhoids so bad.
Yeah,
he was a sex slave of those cults.
Oh,
that's why he's got hemorrhoids.
Oh my God.
they really meant it that way because they said it on the special features. That's, Jeffrey Combs said that. He's like, that's the reason, he didn't come right out and say it, but he's like, that's the reason that he needed a butt donut. He has hemorrhoids from all, and it's like, okay, I get what you were hinting at with this. Okay.
I didn't catch that at all. I did catch the donut, and I'm like, why does he, I mean, I get hemorrhoids, but I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. His character was so fucking weird. I mean, I know that's how it was intended to be. It was just, did you notice he had like no nipples when they showed his chest?
Yeah, and I think it was implied that they were cut off or something by the cults that, carved on him.
Okay.
So there's that whole thing too.
It was so weird. The whole thing was so weird. I'm like, there was a few times where I was like, why are you here? And I know they needed him for the dramatic effects of, obviously he was pulling Lucy away from reviving Michael Fox's character.
Yes.
I get it, But
and of course, he was also the one that prevented Michael J. Fox from actually taking the ashes to the, and having them on concentrated ground because he, did that asshole move. That was the thing that, to me, I was like, you deserve to die at this point, for if nothing else, because you, just like Michael J. Fox said, you've damned us all. Basically, It's like you don't know what you're doing with this.
Dumb motherfucker.